Hi, welcome. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thanks for joining me. One of the things that comes up so often in my work with clients and even things that I hear from people in comments and stuff is frustration with themselves and their process because they keep repeating the same stories, the same questions over and over again. And that frustration is coming from a place of feeling like they should be past it. They've talked about it, so it shouldn't be something that continues to come up for them. Or they've asked the question before, so it shouldn't be something that continues to be a struggle or an issue for them. Can you relate to that? So I wanted to talk about that because I know that frustration sometimes can actually cause people to stop their journey because it feels like there must be something wrong with you, that somehow you're not doing it right, you're not doing it well enough, you're not trying hard enough, or even that maybe healing just isn't possible for you. But that's not true. The reason that people continue to struggle with the same things, whether it's repeating a same kind of behavioral pattern over again or way of thinking, or struggling with just the emotional aspect of a particular experience or struggle. The reason is that each time that you talk about it, each time that it comes up, each time you even give yourself the space without judgment to process in your own mind, you are working through and healing whatever that is, whether it's something related specifically to the experience or something that you believe about yourself as a result of that experience. So, for example, something that often comes up is somebody will share parts of an experience, and it doesn't even have to be a specific trauma-related thing. It can be a struggle with an intimate partner. But it comes up over and over again because you're trying to work through it. You're trying to make sense out of it. You're trying to understand it. And on some level, there's a good chance you're also likely trying to protect yourself from that happening again. So each time you talk about it, your mind and your body is trying to work through it. And when you're doing it in the context of healing, so with somebody that can help guide you and understands what's coming up and why it's coming up, when you talk about it each time, you are processing. And just like grief in general is not something that you recognize that somebody has died and you tell yourself that, okay, now this person's gone, and then you move on from it and you never talk about it again. Right? That doesn't happen, and we don't really expect that to happen when it comes to grief around death. But so much of healing from childhood wounding especially does involve grief. But whether it's about grief or anything else, it's a continual process that we have to allow the space for ourselves to go through. So people will often kind of want to reaffirm maybe why they struggle with something, or understanding something, or their understanding of something. And that is because when you reaffirm that, you are settling more into the truth of that. Because in your mind, even in your body, you believe certain things about your experiences and who you are. And because it's such an automatic, subconscious, or even unconscious thing that's going on, your body is taking over and you just continue to believe it. when you start accepting that maybe there's something different that is actually true, learning it or having the thought about it, again, is all in your head, right? It's all the cognitive aspect of it, which is important. That needs to happen. But it isn't internalized yet. It's just living around up here. When you process it over time, it moves from your head into your body, into your heart, into your nervous system, into your cells. So whether you're asking a question or you're asking, why didn't I tell? Or trying to understand something. So asking a specific question or trying to understand something, like, why didn't I tell? Why do I keep struggling with this? Why does it keep showing up? It's not because there's something wrong with your ability to comprehend. It's not. It's that you need to continually be reminded of it because your system, right, your thoughts, your automatic thoughts and beliefs are telling you that it is your fault, that you should have done something different. So having the opportunity and the space to reaffirm that over and over again, each time it allows it to move a little further from your mind into your being. And over time, that becomes what you deeply know to be true. This is why healing takes the time that it does. It's why healing is layered and complex. Why there isn't a specific method or a tool that's going to heal your trauma. Because it's a combination of all of it. And we need the time to be able to practice. We need the opportunities to be able to have what we're trying to learn and internalize. We need the opportunities for that experience. And that is so much about what healing is. It's about having the opportunities time and time again to continue to learn, but more importantly, to practice, to be reminded of the things that you know intellectually, but have not yet become what you know in your body, like muscle memory. It takes time for that to happen. It takes repetition. It takes practice. And when you have those questions, whether it's wanting to understand something about yourself or your experience, or questions that come to mind about whatever it is really, but questions are a way of trying to learn and internalize. When we're asking those questions, it's because we're trying to understand, and understanding happens not just at a cognitive level, but at a physiological level. And when we can really internalize on that physiological level, that's when the big shifts happen for our healing. Because then we feel safer. We feel less uncertainty. We feel more grounded. We feel that sense, that groundedness of being deeply rooted in what we now know to be true, that it's not your fault, that you're not bad, that you're not undeserving, not enough, or unworthy. But until that happens, our system is still believing all of that. But each time we talk about it, whether, again, it's a specific experience that needs to be talked through because it keeps showing up in some way, or moving what we know intellectually to believing within our being. Like, one of the things that comes up a lot is people will say, oh, I know it wasn't my fault, so I don't blame myself, or I don't feel any shame because I know it wasn't my fault. And I think that's true. I think at this point, most people on a very cognitive level can say, okay, I know that being abused or being assaulted is not the person's fault. But then there's going to be a but, right? How often do you do that? You'll read something, you'll hear something, somebody will say something to you about why it wasn't your fault, or why there's nothing to be ashamed of, why you are deserving of being happy or being in a healthy relationship. And even if you don't express it verbally, there's a part of you that will come up with some sort of reason why it may not entirely be true, or why it doesn't really fit for you. It's because in your body, in your physiology, and in your belief system, you don't yet believe that. So cognitively you can get it, but then immediately there's this rebuttal, the yeah, but. And that yeah, but is because it's not yet internalized. And the more you process by talking about the things that are coming up, by having things reaffirmed for you, by having questions answered and understanding more about yourself and your experience, it becomes more internalized. It becomes your natural state of being. Kind of like the practice of self-compassion. In the beginning of self-compassion practices, people will often be able to easily have have compassion for other people. But when it comes to themselves, for the same situation that they have compassion for somebody else, there will be a yeah, but, or some sort of caveat as to why that doesn't really apply to them. And people can come up with something, no matter what the circumstances. And that's because you don't yet believe it. But the more you practice self-compassion through all the different ways that you can, and this is part of why I wrote Deeply Rooted, because you come back and you practice even the same prompts over and over again. With practice, it becomes more internalized. You begin to believe it a bit more. We have to have the opportunity and the space to continue to practice with support and understanding from others and ourselves. But when we don't have that support or that ability to keep asking those questions, then those questions are still going to be asked in our mind, right? We're still going to ask ourselves, well, why didn't I do this? Or why did I do that? Unfortunately, when you don't have the support, you're going to answer that question. And the answer almost always is going to be somehow to blame yourself. Whether it's, well, because you don't deserve it, or because you're not strong enough, or you're not dedicated enough, because you don't deserve to heal, because healing isn't meant for you in your life, because you're too damaged to be in a healthy relationship. There's so many things that you can come up with. So we need the ability to ask those questions and have the truth reaffirmed over and over again. And we need the support and ongoing practice of implementing, of practicing those things over and over again. And it happens on all levels. You know, I talked about the layers. Healing is about layers and levels as well. And we have to cognitively understand. And that's part of where an awareness plays such an important role. It's like the most important thing. If we don't recognize that there's something there, then nothing else can change. So there's the cognitive aspect of it that is about awareness, about understanding. There's also the body, physiological aspect of it, otherwise known as somatics. We have to feel it in our body, in our being. There's the neurobiology aspect of it. And I don't typically use these terms, but this is what's happening in healing. The neurobiology aspect of it is cognitive, but it happens with practice. And over time, as you practice, over time, you create those new neural pathways. And that's how you change your neurobiology. So I'm sure that you've heard people talk a lot about somatic psychology and somatic healing, and also neuroscience, neurobiology, neural pathways. All of that is incorporated for the layered, deep healing that needs to happen when you're healing trauma or childhood wounding. And in many ways, kind of any aspect of wounding, but especially trauma or childhood wounding. So when you are doubting yourself in your process, when you are questioning whether you can ever get there, that's normal. But please remember that it's part of the process. Like the video that I did on setbacks in therapy, which if you haven't watched that, there are no real setbacks in therapy, by the way. But I talk about the process, and that feeling those times or experiencing those times when you feel like you've had a setback, they're not a setback because they're actually an important part of the practice that needs to happen. So you are worthy, you are deserving, and you are capable. But remember that none of us can do this on our own. We can't. And ideally, we would have somebody that can really support us, that really understands and can support us. And I also think that having a community of people that you know get it and can support you is also really important. And I've always said this. I think that group therapy, a group experience, is so important to the healing process. There are aspects of healing that you experience in community that you just can't experience one-on-one. And of course, there's aspects of healing that are important to have one-on-one that you can't get in a community experience. But community, I believe, is so important to healing. And it's one of the reasons that I am creating this new experience of returning to wholeness. And you can click on the link in the description for more information on returning to wholeness. Registration will be starting in the next couple of weeks. So end of July, beginning of August of 2021. But you can learn all about it now and sign up. If you're not already on my list, sign up so that you get first access to join, because there's a tiered pricing. But you can learn more about that in the description. So I would love to invite you to join me there. I'll be talking a little bit more about that in the coming week or couple of weeks. So I would love to be able to connect with you there. But in the meantime, know that you're not failing at healing. Know that you are strong enough, you're capable enough, and everything that you need to heal is already within you. You don't need to change anything about who you are. Everything that you need is already within you. Yes, you need support, because we all do. But you have what it takes to heal already within you. Even when it doesn't feel like it, even when it feels like you're not making any progress or you've taken 1,000 steps back. That isn't the reality. I'd love to hear from you. What is your experience? Any thoughts, reactions that come up for you? Have you felt like maybe somehow you're doing it wrong, or you're just not really capable of ever getting there? You're not alone. Connect with me in the comments. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.